All right. Oh, we're live. Right. I'm gonna do me.
Yeah.
I'll do me little intro now. There we go. Hello and welcome to Unity 151. My name is Joe. On this channel, I do weekly reviews of sci-fi, mystery, sci-fi, and space opera books. I do weekly live writing video where, well, me and this guy and Ramsey and there's Cole as well joins us. We talk about stuff where we're inspiring writers and things that we're dealing with and what we're achieving and so on and so forth. Do author interviews where I talk about their new, their old, and upcoming books. Today is the writer journey one. So we're going to talk about that. We've got our subject is believable characters. Trying to write believable characters. This is something that I'm dealing with at the moment, so that's something I want to talk about. So this is Ramsey. Ramsey's going to say hello, who he is, and all that stuff, and then
Hey, my name's Ramsey. I run the Rajathon YouTube channel.
So professional compared to me, sorry.
Review mostly sci-fi and fantasy books. I do nonfiction. Currently doing a United States presidents' biographies read-along where we talk about all the presidents currently at George Washington, but anybody can join at any point if you just want to learn more about Abraham Lincoln coming up. Join then and anytime is good. And then, recently did a bunch of Brandon Sanderson stuff, trying to get into some more classic sci-fi like Asimov and Heinlein. And so if there's anything that, somebody would like to see or want me to read and review, I could do that as well. So, but yeah, currently I'm writing a short story. It's the first thing I've ever written and enjoying the process. It's more than I was. I'm enjoying it, but it's difficult for sure. You kind of second guess yourself and you look back at all the things you read and we're like, man, that was an awful book. And then you look at it and you go, well, I mean, mine's going to be worse than that one was. So, it kind of makes you not want to be so harsh on other people.
It's been a few weeks since we've been on, quite a few weeks actually. So how are you doing regarding your writing? How much have you achieved? Where are you at now?
I feel I'm about halfway done. I'm about 4,000 words. Let me pull it up real quick here.
So you're going for a short story. I know you just said that. My memory.
Yeah, I'm thinking about 10,000 words. So, I'm at 4,069 words. So for me, that's a lot more than. Well, now I got to pull you back up. Okay. But yeah, that's more than I'd ever. Sat down and written. I never went to college. I don't know about you. I'm a trade guy. I'm an elevator mechanic.
Carpenter.
Yeah. So, I never had to write this much before, and I actually enjoy doing it, which is nice. When I was in school, it was not an enjoyable thing to do.
Mm-hmm. What I am doing is an invasion story. That's what this book is, but it's set in a military space opera universe. So my plan is. This story is a self-contained story where you follow characters. There's a big event going on, but they're just following their story, that they're the goal of the book and what these people are trying to achieve. That's what this book's about. Other books are kind of what I want to do, because something I've noticed people complain about, something myself, is sometimes a series drags on and you kind of can feel that the author is kind of lost his fizzle. Like he's got an end goal, but where he sort of spread it out, it's kind of like, you know what I mean? And you end up getting committed to these people because you want to find out what happens, where I want to sort of have lots of self-contained stories with these characters. Like characters might go into another book, but it's a different story. Each book is a self-contained story. It's not about the bigger picture. They're running their lives in the event and they're just dealing with whatever the target is and stuff. That's kind of what I'm doing. I am at, I've got it here, 51,723 words. My aim is about 70 to 80,000. I think just before Christmas, I was at 1st of January, I was at 45,000. So in 10 days, I've done 6,000. Is that right?
Did you write it on the wall?
Yeah, I've written up there. I've got me, just so I know what I'm kind of keep track of doing, because it's kind of like a bit of like an inspiration thing. I'm like, right, I know I'm, doing it. I try very hard, about minimum of 1,000 words. I want to hear 1,000 words a day. Usually, I can achieve that. 1,500's been the golden. Some days I've done 2,000, but then some days I haven't done any writing at all because life in general, children are all at home and stuff. Excuse me. Yeah, so my books, I'm going for about 70 to 80,000. Kind of there. I know how my book's finishing, so I'm kind of like just these two characters are kind of like up. They're pretty much their stories are lined up now. Another two characters, they're together, but they're not actually crossing paths. They're just in the same fleet.
Mm-hmm.
So their stories are kind of converging to the same location. Not that they're all going to meet. So
Yeah,
it's all
coming
they're
together.
all well. One's in so there's a fleet admiral. So I'll tell you who they are. I've got Tim. Yeah, no, sorry, Tim's. He's just like I don't know what, but he's like a specialist, I call him, because he has powers. So when I say powers, it's not like he can do all these crazy things. He can form a shield, which means he lasts a bit longer, but he doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
He's not invincible. Like he can just take a few more hits than what a normal person could take, and he can have this thing where he's got these two guns that are basically like you squeeze them to fire because he's got this power, so he can lift them up over the side of his head. You know, Edge of Tomorrow, is it called?
Yeah.
I repeat. You know when they have the guns up the side, they're like that.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that, but without the arms, and someone's just got like a power they can hold two guns up there, so he can hold his machine gun, and while he's fighting, he can just have these two guns and just sort of like blind fire spray. Not very accurate, but
like telepathy kind of, but like engineered telepathy.
Yeah, I haven't dug into the depths of it because I'm not dealing with it. Like a lot of stuff I'm leaving vague. Like the enemy, you don't know. They don't talk. Well, they do talk, but you don't know their language because like they don't know what they're saying.
Yeah, you have to figure out what their language is.
They're just they're talking their own lingo, and not it's an invasion. They've just met these guys.
Yeah.
But so like it's just a lot of stuff I want to leave as a mystery because it's an invasion that's happened. So like the planet side, it's about 5 days worth of story. The fleets, it started just before the invasion. So like you don't learn much about in 5 days the enemy turned up, they're slaughtering everyone, it's chaos, like they're trying to defend this Pacific planet. You don't really get much time to have conversation, be like, so what's going on, aliens? Why are you doing this? You know what I mean? So I want to leave it really like they have no idea or the people on the planet have no idea what these aliens are doing, why they're here. But the fleet side do find out some information, but they don't cross paths.
Mm-hmm.
So that's Tim. He's got these powers. Then I've got Cade, who's just a normal Marine. Now I wanted someone who can just be fighting on the ground, normal. He has no powers. He's got to be careful and stuff. And I wanted it that he crossed paths with Tim, so you can see Tim doing stuff from another point of view, which I thought would be interesting. Of like, I've got this kind of scene that I'm building up to. There's a load of tanks. I think there's a couple tanks. I don't know if it's a full column, but there's 2 tanks going on. Find some other tanks down the street. Cade and a load of other Marines are huddled behind the tanks trying to advance down the street to get down. Okay, I need to get to wherever they got to get. Tim's at the side with some other people, and Tim sort of advanced into the tanks, taking all these shots because he's got his energy shield. He's kind of like, he's trying to fight him. He's getting that like shot at. He gets blown and knocked over, and just sort of chaos. And that's kind of what I wanted to see, or try and show that 2 points of view of what Tim can do, and then having like a Marine who's not, super powered and all that stuff. I don't like superpowers. It's kind of a bit boring for me personally. Franklin, go on. What was I gonna say?
Commander Avon said the straight man, like your normal guy in a crazy situation.
Yeah, basically. Like Tim, like even though Tim's got powers, he's not invincible. He still has to take cover. He has to use like his shield to his advantage. He pulled a shield. He can then take more damage to advance somewhere, but he can't just go on forever. I don't want a Mary Sue or Marty Sue or whatever they're called. So Franklin is the fleet admiral. I want to talk about him because he's the character that whether I can make him seem believable with the issues that I'm having with him, or what I'm trying to portray that he has his issues. Then there's Henham, who's just a fighter pilot. So with these two characters, with my fleet, or the fleets, but like with this specific fleet, I wanted to show the ships actually fighting from Franklin's point of view as he sees all the ships actually fighting and doing what they do as he controls the fleet, and then have Henham who's actually fighting close in the fighter ships, and so that's kind of my two characters, and that's a bit about my story, really. Do you want to talk about your story a little bit? I've just rambled on about mine.
Well, what I've really been working on lately is like I wrote probably 1,000 words And in those 1,000 words, I started down a path, and like I know where I want to go, but I wasn't really sure exactly. Um, so I need, without spoiling the story, I need my character to be able to disappear. And so I had the idea of um, he needed to, because he's a twin and they're cryogenically frozen. So he has to um, switch back and forth once a year with his brother. So, he does a video diary and then he gets in the cryogenic tank and his brother lives his life for a year, kind of save resources, kind of corrupt government kind of thing. Um, and so I needed, the guy that he's just come out of cryo sleep for a year. So he's kind of learning what happened in the last year. And he loves his wife. Like he married the wife and they share the wife, but the wife has no idea. And the other guy had a daughter while he was sleeping. So, but she's 8 now. And he kind of feels like his brother needs to be with his daughter, even though he loves his wife and he married his wife, he feels his brother should have his daughter. And so
Right.
he's going to try to disappear. But in that disappearing, it needs to be believable enough that they will let his brother out and he can go live his life, even though he's going to be unhappy, that his wife is, living with his brother kind of, but he just needs to figure out a way to disappear, and then he can't die, because if he died, they wouldn't let his brother out, because it'd be in the news that he died, and that ruined their story. So he has to disappear in a way that
Yeah.
they'll let his brother out. And so I've been struggling trying to figure out a good way to do that. And so originally I had this thought of him buying a clone and letting the clone die, but then I was like, no, that would, his brother wouldn't come out of cryo sleep. So I'm trying to craft him getting off world, like completely off the planet, to make that possible. And so I think I finally figured it all the way out. I think I'm going to do like a parallel dimension, and like he step into a parallel dimension
Oh.
and then get carted off the planet. Not sure exactly how I'm getting there. I need to figure that out some more. I'm working on his character, and like I want, because I'm married and I have a daughter, so I want to kind of put my life into it, but like split my two personalities and
Yeah.
have each twin, even
Half
though
you.
identical, yeah, even though identical twins are very similar, kind of have each one do like two different personalities. So,
You could have one called Ramsey and one called Rajathon.
well, I still haven't picked names yet. I'm kind of on a Charlie. Like I think I've kind of started calling the Frozen brother Charlie, but I don't know if I've settled on that. I still haven't picked a name for the daughter yet. So I'm still real up in the air. All I do is I just put in parentheses daughter or brother one, brother two, and then when I finally come up with names, I still haven't picked a title name yet. I'm thinking something to do with Gemini or something like that, but because that's the horoscope. It's twins or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I've just recently decided the name of what my book's going to be called. It's Invasion of Rain. Kind of makes it. The planet's called Rain. So Invasion of Rain's pretty much explains what it is, really.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'll talk about characters. I know we're talking about, well, the other thing, but character-wise, I used to, at first, I think, right, I want this character. I'll set all these things out. He's going to be moody, or he'll do this. It's female, male, what it looks like. Write a whole description about, from my pen. And then I'd start, and I just couldn't make them sound like that. And I ended up making my character be completely different. So I ended up scrapping all that other work I'd done. I kind of found for myself, when it comes to characters, just going with a character, let them act it out as I'm just typing, and then like names and what they are form better. Because with the 4 characters I've got, apart from Tim, but the 3 other characters, I just had pictures of what they look like, just so I could sort of describe, and I never read, and what I actually put down what their personality's like, I didn't do. They all just sort of become their own thing, and that's the only thing when it comes to planning. I don't plan everything, but that just didn't work. Like planning was just like characters had to be made, be themselves, really.
Yeah, I still haven't figured out what characters look like and anything like that. Like, I don't know if I'm going to make them. I'll probably go like medium skinned, like what most people call olive skinned, like kind of Middle Eastern kind of skin tone. I don't know, Indian might be a little bit too dark, or like a white person might be too light, but somewhere like Middle Eastern,
Depends on how far in the future
Italian,
your
something like that.
story is, because the further, if you go 1,000 years, 2,000 years, if we survive, if a meteorite don't wipe us out, where everyone will be mixing and breeding and all that stuff, the skin color will go a kind of a brownie of the,
That's what I'm thinking too.
you know what I mean? So depending on what your time scale is, unless you want to add in a technology that justifies why people aren't, which you could do if you wanted to pick a particular color. Because kind of talking about this is a bit about what we want to talk about, making a believable character with Franklin. No, Henham. Franklin is Franklin. They're both brothers. I get confused.
Franklin's like the captain, right? The admiral.
Yeah, Franklin's the fleet admiral. So I give him longish hair because he's kind of I'm going for he's a bit of a narcissist, that he really cares about himself, and he's arse licked his way into power. Like he is good at his job, but he does it through caring about himself. And like I'm trying to make. Originally, I was going to have him sort of break down. Now I've kind of changed how his story's going to end, but I was going to have him sort of breaking down and making mistakes. But I don't know quite if I'm still going to do that. But what I've had him doing a lot of times, like he had a twitch on his eye. So like when he was getting like stressed, like his eye would sort of twitch a bit, and when he's sort of being all like talking about himself and being a bit sort of not smug, but like me, I. He always like runs his hands through his hair and a bit sort of like pantsy.
You ought to make him like slow down every time there's a mirrored surface where he's
No, I'm not doing it so he's quite that vain. Yeah. It's just sort of like when he sort of goes a bit me, I. He kind of goes a bit, or like he does these little silly things, and then when he gets stressed, he has like a little flick and he starts like getting a bit snappy. And he does talk down to people. Excuse me. And all of this stuff, I sort of thought to myself, would people believe a fleet admiral would be like this? That's kind of like my thing I've been like working on at the moment.
I think it depends on the politics of the fleet. Like if they're very into discipline, and like you have to be this person to be there, or if it's political, like if you can work your way in politically, I think that would very easily be the kind of person that would be there. But
it's not really political, the way my thing's structured. But I mean, politics is always insane. You've got to be friends. If you're friends with the right person, you get a chance to get in. You know what I mean? Like that happens. So like in my story, you live a lot longer than what a normal lifespan is. Like through medical science, you can live forever. It's kind of what kills you is a random sickness might come that you haven't adapted yet, or you might fall over and break your neck. Like general acts of God, as we'll call it, just kill you. You know what I mean? Darwinism.
How do you deal with population control if nobody?
I'm over my story's like over galaxies and galaxies.
Okay.
It's a big. So this is the thing where I'm saying it's a military space opera. So it's huge, the universe that my story is in, but it's small scale what the characters are dealing with in the grander picture. So it kind of gives me freedom to do a lot of stuff. But again, I'm just dealing with one planet, one fleet, and a few other fleets turn up. Like you're talking billions of people and stars and stuff, which they talk about how big it is, but you don't need to worry about all that stuff because it's just about the small stuff that's going on involving them. Well, you look at like World War II, a squad or like a platoon or whatever, they're not winning the war, they're just taking a village or a city. You know what I mean? That's kind of what their story is. They're just a small one piece moving, and their story is you got to take this city or you need to defend this city. And that's the objective of the story. There's a bit more going on, but you understand what I mean? That's kind of what I'm going for anyway. Because what's his name? Cade, I really like his character. He's really grown on me from when I first started him. I haven't written Tim for a while, or wrote for Tim for a while. I like Franklin. It's just the whether people are going to believe how he is, but I'm consistent with it. It's just, can people believe that a fleet admiral could be a bit screw loose? But there's lots of fleet admirals. There's much higher. I've added like grand admirals. Then there's like 5-star, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-star grand admirals, and there's people above them as well because the military's so much bigger. There's higher up.
who's the guy that calls all the shots? Like, do you have a
I,
perspective?
no, this person, they refer to him as like him or he, because he he's just not. Everyone knows him, so they don't need to talk about him. If you understand what I mean, like he's there. I'm not touching on this person because he's just a constant in the story. If you know what I mean, like so, I've called it Unity, my side, and the person in charge. Because you can live forever and all this stuff through medical science and what stuff. He is allowed. He can keep going. So like that's why he's around, but he's not a main character. You're dealing with the lows of everything, because you have people like each military is to like a galaxy or to like a solar system, then to a galaxy, and then there's galaxies are clustered up as well. So there's lots of heads higher up, but all this stuff you just don't deal with. It's just, you know what I mean? It's kind of like another book. I could dig into it a little bit, and another book over here I can dig into it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I understand that. That makes a lot of sense. Like I think you're onto something with like a admiral that like because then the guys that you're have underneath him will all be understanding like this guy does not know what he's talking about, or we just don't like dealing with him, or that can really cause some good conflict that I think would make I think it'd make it interesting. I like a good dialogue conflict. I haven't figured out how to write that yet, but when I do read it, I like it a bit.
Yeah, so like something kind of like something that's just happened now is the fleet. He's just Franklin's fleet has just been contacted by a Grand Admiral who's got his own fleet, because everything's jammed. They can't communicate with each other. I'm about halfway in the book. Quite a bit's happened. But like Franklin's like, as soon as he realised who this person is, I think it's called Grand Admiral Damon, I've called him. And he's like, Grand Admiral, right, okay, I can really sort of like try and talk up a bit. And he's trying to like, oh, I've heard about you, Grand Admiral, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, just cutting him off all the time. And at the end of their conversation, he says like, you don't need to arse lick me. Like he's really talking down to Damon and sort of not Damon, talking down to Franklin. And Franklin's a bit like flustered, and he gets a bit sort of like, twitchy space and stuff. And I've got it that he lies. So like what the Grand Admiral said to him about like the fleet done well, you guys have done really well. They've really fought on with the loss, and because he had a loss and the win and all this stuff. But then when he talks to the fleet and talks to his XO, he lies and twists. He's like, "Yep, the Grand Admiral's really happy how I've done everything." You know what I mean? Like really, I'm really trying to make him be an arse. You know, like a bit like Game of Thrones. You've got good and bad on both sides. I'm kind of a bit like that. Like you've got, he's a good guy. He believes in unity. He wants to, fight for unity, win and all that stuff. Like, they're getting invaded. But at the same time, he's an arsehole. He only thinks about himself. He is a bit of a narcissist. And that's kind of what I want to do. Because the other characters, I feel like, are likable. They're just trying to survive and take orders. Two of them are just trying to survive on the planet with all the other lot who are on the planet. The other one's taking orders. And this is another little conflict I'm having, is the brother, so the fleet admirals, Franklin's the older one, Henham's the younger one, and they don't talk, but like there's an issue. I don't know what the issue is. You haven't
figured it out yet.
I haven't figured it out. I feel like it could just be that Franklin only cares about himself and Henham don't. It's kind of quite simple, where like Henham, when he sees hears his brother talking, or like when his brother's head comes on and talks to everyone across the fleet, he gets really like annoyed that he's his brother. He's like, he's such a dick, or you know what I mean? Just the way he talks, he's like, he just, you would say that, brother, or something like that, you know what I mean? But then Henham's squadron got annihilated and a lot of people died. So then when Franklin's XO Mines talks to him, it's like, your brother's squadron, saying, whatever, a lot of losses happened, blah, blah, stuff like that. I don't know if you want to say anything. He's like, right, yeah, I will talk about the death. Like, he just doesn't care about his brother, just like, yeah, I will make a speech to people who lost. And he's like, oh, you know what I mean? He's like, your brothers, you know what I mean? He like, even Mines is kind of like, your brothers, a lot of his friends just died. And Franklin's like, all about me, I. But he's trying to do the best for unity in his own, bit like Falco, but not quite to that sort of extreme. How Falco, you know what I mean? Kind of, you could probably say they're similar characters, but they've got their own, he's not going for a dictatorship like Falco. We're talking about Lost Fleet, Fearless, the book 2. Anyone who's listening, watching, you know what I mean? Yeah, so that's kind of like what I'm going.
I think that's a really good way that you could probably take some things from Falco and say, you know, how did I like how this character was portrayed? How did I like how he, you know, you weren't talking so much about like breaking, like Falco broke, you know, he was in that battle, and then everything didn't go the way he wanted, and like his mind snapped. You're talking more of like just
he makes mistakes because he's thinking about himself, kind of. So I've already I've been putting seeds at the moment of like when they're talking up, because they're reviewing, they find out a bit of more information about what's happening across a few galaxies, and Unity's been smashed really bad. Like these aliens, the other side, there's multiple aliens. They've got a better FTL which can pinpoint in any place. Like you don't have to like travel like you're flying there. You kind of go through like a portal, but it's not quite a portal. I'm just simplifying it. It basically looks like a tear in space. It's fun, like thunder and lightning in space, and they just sort of go through and come out. But it's not that easy. Something I've actually added, which is so diversion from what we're talking about. What I've added is like, so they can form a tear. As they go through the tear, it sort of like cuts all the power out. So they'll go through, come out the other side, and they have to re-power up. So it's kind of, even though they've got this advantage through, they can jump any pinpoint position, it's still, you can't just like come through and attack. Like you come through this, you know, they have to then repower up their ships and then start fighting. So that kind of gives the other side
that makes you super vulnerable for a while. Like as soon as you come out of jump space.
So that's kind of like, but they've designed their fleets. Their fleet's designed for more of a close combat situation because they can pinpoint in any direction. They don't have to worry about long range sniping, which how space fighting would be. They can actually get close because they can like form a tear anywhere, just go through, come out the other side in mass, and then just start attacking quite close quarters, which then Unity's not designed for a close quarter fight. They're designed for more of a long range. So kind of what I'm planning is Unity needs to adapt to fight in a different way. And like I want to have like technology evolve. So as these stories go on, Unity will get new technology, they'll learn new stuff, their ships will change to fight because of the new threat. I want to have like an evolving technology, so you'll have old ships getting replaced by new ships, and then those new ships will then be replaced by even newer ships. So then it's kind of like, wow, that was a new ship, and now that's actually an old ship, if my story goes on over a long period of time. Yeah, that's sort of another thing. You got children issues. I've sent mine to bed, so I don't have to worry about
that. The dog is barking.
The dog! Oh, my dog's outside somewhere. I don't know where it's gone. I live on a farm. Dog just went off somewhere.
Commander Avon just brought up talking about jumping into hyperspace, but hyperspace travel is instantaneous.
So I've got So there's 3 ways of FTL in my story at the moment. One is kind of like a Star Trek sort of thing. You speed up really fast. It's kind of like, and it takes a week to go from like a sun to sun or something like that. That's what Unity's got. Then the other side have got it. They pretty much, it's like they can form a tear and go straight through. So they're tearing in space, folding, bending, whatever you want to call it. They can literally instantaneously go from one space to another space. There is limitations on length, so they can't like travel multiple galaxies. You know what I mean? They have to jump, but it's instantaneous. Where obviously the FTL, it takes a long time, like a week to travel from sun to sun. There is a third. Go on. What was you gonna say?
I thought you were saying something about like these kind of portals that they were setting up. They take a while.
That's what it is. They can cause a tear. That's the tear. So they can, whatever ship can do it, can form a tear. The tear happens in space. They go through and straight out the other side. But obviously, like you go through, then the fault of, or the problem that will cause is as you go through, your then ship's powered down because of whatever reason. What it is, everything needs if something's really good, it still needs a weakness because it then comes a Mary Sue, or like it comes boring. You know what I mean? So that's why they've got this super advantage, but there's still an issue. So that then means I can then have not dramatic, but I can have counter attacks and add story around it. You know.
Are you talking about the Predator ships from like Aliens and Predator, like the Predator 1, Predator 2?
How do they? I don't know how they. How do they? How
I
do they
don't.
go?
I haven't seen those in years. I don't
Oh, it's
remember
been a long
in the
time for
in the
myself.
last few movies. Okay, so like Alien versus Predator and Predators.
I don't know. I
Um,
can't remember.
yeah,
So I've
the
got another. This is like a. This is a, sorry. Go on. Go on. What are you gonna say?
the one I thought you had talked about um like a round built portal
Yes. So
that
this is the
like
third. This is
static in space
yeah.
where it took a while to build, but basically it's like a um like a tunnel. Like
Stargate.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, kind of like
I've
that.
got
Yeah.
that. So what I've got. So Uni have so what they to power these. They've got these. They're called Stargates. They're in Star. They're a gate. But to power them, you need a sun. So what they do, they build a Dyson sphere around the sun because all of Unity's we're at that stage of technology that is powered by Dyson spheres, sun like power, like sun back, I call them sun batteries, power cores through the sun energy. Um, so they've got Dyson spheres, which obviously around the sun. That's how they get their energy for the Stargates. But the Stargate is attached to the Dyson sphere around the sun, so
Mm.
they can travel instantaneously across multiple galaxies at long distances. But the problem with that is you can only go to them Pacific suns, and if you have a Dyson sphere around a sun, it means there's going to be no habitable planets. So then once you go, once you go from one Dyson sphere Stargate to another Stargate, you then need to then do a quick FTL, which might take a day or two, to a habitable planet or world. You see what I'm saying? So
Okay.
something else I've added is I want multiple points of interest of what Unity needs to defend and what the aliens want to attack. So you've got habitable planets that people like general people live on. There's military worlds where they factory train people and it's more of a factory or more of a military planet. Then you have the two sorts of resources that they gather. One's I call it dark crystal for now, but I'll probably change it because it sounds a bit corny. But that's what shielding's made of, or it comes through. It's like a crystal that they can connect up to a power source and can link to it through some sort of whatever computerized technology, and that can form a power shield. And they can kind of like code the shield to be a certain way, but shields only like last so long, and like if you break the shield it can crack the crystal, so you have to replace the crystal to get the shield back up. So you know what I mean. And
Kind of
then
like
there's
kyber crystals in Star Wars.
yeah, kind of maybe. And then the other resources that I've called it measure, which is the FDL mineral, so they can just travel like the normal FDL. So then they're the two sort of planets, and they're not that common. I think the measure, which is the FDL one, that's I don't know, I've written my notes somewhere. That's quite a really rare resource. So then Unity will then have to decide: do I defend? If we don't defend that resource, we can't travel to counter the aliens, but we need to defend the people. But if we defend the habitable planets, we lose the resource and we can't fight to defend the people. And if we lose the shields, and I want to add through the story. Now, all this stuff doesn't affect this story. This story's self-contained, but another story, I can introduce these additional issues, yeah. Okay. I want to have as many options as I want, but make it not complicated. That's why I'm keeping my stories all trying to keep them.
So with your characters, like how are you going to create through dialogue believable ways to make them understandable, or are you going to do that through internal flashbacks, or how are you wanting to do that?
They talk to each other about stuff. If they talk about something, I haven't had no flashbacks. I don't really like flashbacks personally.
Yeah, they're tough to do.
Yeah, so like it's just
tough to do well.
Yeah, especially for like someone who's starting out. Like I'm just saying, if anyone else has seen, I have done a few other drafts of other stories before, but this is the only one I'm actually going for all the way for publishing and all that stuff. FYI, just a lot of dialogue. They're talking about stuff. Something I've got is it's quite a heavy action book, but there's lots of like there'll be like a chapter which I call a world building chapter. So like they'll be walking through the streets, so the action just happened, and they're sort of like they're talking about the stuff that's happened. They'll be walking. Something simple is like they find a newspaper on the floor, so someone's joking around like, look at the newspaper. Yesterday it was really good. They're talking about a Dyson sphere and a Stargate, and it just like read the headlines of like bits and bobs, and they sort of joke around with each other, you know, throw the newspaper away. But that's how I'm adding world building in, and they'll sort of talk about how they're doing stuff and talk about, you know, all the information is they're chatting in a what I call a world building chapter. Then that'll then lead up to another action chapter. Action happens, fighting, you know, aliens, death, destruction, all that stuff. Then they're again relaying on that stuff, talk, maybe a little bit more action will happen, but something minor will happen, and then that, because it's only a quick minor thing, they can then talk about that, like, wow, where do you think this alien come from? God, it sounds horrible, doesn't it? It looks like, you know what I mean? And that's kind of how I'm trying to, you know, get the information.
I had the thought for a while to have a TV show called Earth that was just us. And so it'd be like, you know, like on that TV show Earth, that person looks like this, or that person, you know, it's just like whenever I'm trying to describe something, I can use something we know and call it that TV from on that you know, that TV show Earth.
Yeah.
But I haven't even got into that, or I may not even use that. But I thought it'd be a cool way to, you know, be like, we are a TV show in my fictional world. You know, I thought that'd be kind of funny.
You can do what you want. I mean, to be honest, you know, you could even not have Earth, but you could have your own made up TV, make up your own little universe completely within a TV show, but like make it relatable so we understand what they're talking about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's a brilliant idea. I can't know what I was going to talk about now.
So what I want to do with characters and try to make them believable is through dialogue. And I'm currently doing first person, which I know a lot of people don't like first person. But I think for a new writer, it's a little bit easier because it's easier to write in a I thought of these things. And I don't know if I'll even ever publish a story, but to finish it will be the goal, and maybe even let some people read it and say, hey, you know, what do you guys think? And maybe move on to another story, and then touch this one up later when I'm actually, you know, accomplished or semi-accomplished. But like, just to show in some kind of way to say, you know, this is the reason that this person wants to do this thing. This is the reason, their motivations like clearly defined. Because I think a lot of times I'll see stuff that's written and you don't believe their motivations very well. Like, you don't believe why they're doing the thing that they're doing. And that's always frustrating as a reader. And I don't want to do that to my readers as a writer. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I want to make it believable that my character would do that for that reason, and you know, whatever character growth they need to have, or whatever they're going through, they'll do that because we believe it would happen, even though it's fiction.
Well, that's where I'm lucky, because my story takes place like, for two characters it's 5 days, and the other characters it's I think it's 7 or 8 days or something like that. So there ain't really much character growth needing to go on, you know what I mean? You don't change in a week or two. I mean, but some of it, like, apart from Franklin, this is where Franklin is borderline not losing the plot. I don't want him to have a breakdown, but I want him to, like, you see that it's this pressure is messing him up, and kind of how I'm going to end his character's or his story, how it ends on him in the book. It's kind of a bit of like, you don't know. It's sort of left, like, you don't know what happens to him. Like, that's kind of what I'm going for. There is Franklin and Cade are the only two who don't have like an arc. They're just following their orders, trying to survive and fight. One's obviously not Franklin. Cade and Henham. They're just, you know, the fighter pilot and the Marine. Tim does have a bit going on with his son, because he lives on the Rain planet when this all kicks off. So he is going to have, there is something that I was playing with, which I need to re-go over his story again, because I changed a lot of the story. Because originally I was just doing one point of view, just him throughout the whole story. But then I wanted to add that Marine seeing Tim do something from his own point of view, which then led to adding 3 more characters, because I decided I wanted to have ships and blah, blah, blah. And it got, you know what I mean? So I need to re-change his whole entire story. Excuse me. So he does have a thing going. So he has a bit of a something. A lot happens to him. He kind of goes from like not pro war, but like pro fighting to like kind of stuff happens, and he kind of like he hates it. Not that he liked war, but he's kind of like he likes the thrill of the fight. Like he's someone who likes combat, and that's kind of what I was going with him, and then how his story ends to what I've got in my head at the moment. That could still be quite fitting with what I was going to do, just change it around. I think
that's a very common theme. Like as a young man, you're like, oh yeah, I want to fight, and then you get into battle, and you're like, no, I don't. I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. I had some friends that were United States Marines.
Yeah.
And after the Iraq War, they were like, I would never want anybody I know to do that. So that's a pretty real thing. It really is.
Well, since Tim's at the moment how he was before, I've got to really go over his whole thing. He's pretty much a veteran. He's finished, and he's had 2 kids, and then the war kicks off, and something might happen to one of the kids or not. So like that's kind of where I'm going to have like the fight's going on. He's like, he's getting excited, like whatever's happening, he's doing whatever. Something happens to one of the children, and that kind of like hardens him and changed him, and then that kind of makes him a bit hard against his other son because one died or possibly died. I don't know, you know what I mean? But because let's just say one died, which made sort of like chucked him around because he didn't, when he was fighting before, he didn't have kids he'd have to worry about. But then the fight has come again. He's lost a son, and then he's got his other son. So that kind of turns him a bit shelly and a bit hard and a bit cold towards his other son because he's so not messed up, but he's really upset, grieving because it's only a couple of days. But then the other son kind of then turns into like him when he was younger, wanting to fight, revenge and blah, blah, blah. And then it's kind of like a bit of, that's what I was doing before I changed the story. So I've got to modify that possibly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty good theme, I think. With how much do you have like one central character that's probably your main character, and then everybody else is kind of like secondary characters, or
they're all pretty even? Shared? They're seeing the war from each different point of views. Well, no, 2 are seeing it from the same, like you're seeing the same stuff happen from 2 point of views, and seeing the same stuff happen from 2 point of views. That's kind of how it's going. It's the fleet and the planet side, and they cross paths a bit. Cade and Tim they're just about to link up, and then for the rest of the story, they're going to be fairly together, or they'll be like a street apart, depending on what's going on. But their story goes and finishes together.
Like same squad.
I don't know. I don't know how. I don't know. I haven't really. This is the thing. I have bullet points. I know what each chapter needs to achieve. So like. If something in the last chapter happens, I'm like, right, I know I need to address this. So this chapter's not about this, but I need to have this in here with the other things I'm hitting. And I just then make up what happens and just completely write, and if it changes or not, you know what I mean? So at the moment, I don't know how Cade and Tim are going. I know they're meeting up now and they will be together at the end. I haven't how they go through the middle. Like they might sort of meet, split, have a few separate things. Because Cade has got his own squad who he's with anyway, and Tim's whole chapter is changing, his whole story is changing. But like, so Tim could add on. Like I don't know. Like what is Tim? I started Tim. Like I said, I started Tim ages ago, and then when I added all the other characters, I had to catch up to where Tim was, and Tim's story is about maybe midway where Tim's story is. So I've had to write 3 characters and get them to Tim's point, to then carry the story on from where Tim is. You know what I mean? Give or take. Yeah. It's all fun and games.
Yeah.
I like it. I do like having to like work out, how they're going to cross, if they're going to cross, you know what I mean? All that stuff. It's all fun, isn't it? I love it all,
It's always nice to have a character you've been working on. Like I've seen a lot of books do this well, where like say Cade is having like some issues, and then Tim says something to him that like fixes that, but in saying that to him, he didn't mean to do it. He just kind of he's got his own stuff he's dealing with, but he kind of said what he was dealing with. it worked for him, and then I've seen that happen and be pulled off really, really well.
Yeah, do you know what? That I could do that because if Tim's having his issues with his son, and like how he's dealing with everything that's happened over the last, I think about 3 days in now, when Tim and him meet up. So he's had 3 days of like he's lost his son and like he's being a bit harsh on the other son. So maybe Cade might say something, because he's dealing with issues because a lot of his squad mates have just died on the initial getting to the planet, because Cade starts in one of the carriers, and the carrier just gets annihilated, and sort of Cade sort of like he wakes up, he's on the floor, he's sort of getting up, he's got blood, and he's like the alarms are going on, he's like, Christ, what's going on? He gets up, and then he's like, he knows there's an evac going, everyone's evacuating because the ship's being punctured all the way through, so he's got to do a run. He runs, he gets into the drop pod. The drop pod drops a load of not all of his squad mates as well. So I think there's only 8 of them. I think 8 of them got onto there out of 25. Squad's a bit bigger. So that he's like missing part of his squad, and then as they land, he literally lands, and then the aliens land as well. So they get out of their pod, and they're like, oh Christ, and then the aliens land down the street, and there's like there's evacuating pods from the ships, and there's alien pods landing. Like the invasion is. My book is like the invasion day as it starts. This is something a bit diverting here. I like action and stuff, and I do like invasion books, and I've read invasion books. It's even called like invasion of this or invasion something. They'll have like the bit of invasion, a little bit, and then like they sort of jump to like the after bit. It's like, no, I want to see the aliens coming, the war, like they're kicking off, they're trying to defend. Like give me 5 days of them just trying to defend. Like you don't have to like drag the invasion. If it's called invasion day or invasion this, show me the invasion. That's what I like.
Yeah,
that's what the story is. It's actually going to be the grits of the invasion.
I think it's going to do really, really well. I can't wait to read it.
Hopefully, I'm just should we go? My target is February. I'll have this finished. Then I'll go through the editing, changing the stuff that I've done. Once I've done my editing and stuff, I'll then
you gonna pay an editor?
Then I got to edit as I'm going, I'm like adding notes. I need to do this, change this. I've changed like weather and technology and stuff. So then I go over, reline it all up, make sure it's all the same. Once I've done that, I'll then send it off to the editor. The editor will just get my buzzed from geek on my sleeve. Pay the editor, get the editor done. Once I've done that with the editor, I'll then beta read it. But what I'm doing, I'm getting the first quarter edited. Then I'm going to give it to the beta readers. They'll read it. Then I'll know if it seems interesting from the first quarter. If they think it's interesting for the first quarter, I'll change or do whatever. But then I'll get the rest edited. I think it's 1 cent a word. So it's 1 cent a word. If it's 80,000, it's $800. I think it's right. So it's $800 for me. So that's £600. I'll get the first quarter done, see if people like it. If it's liked, bar like whatever needs changing. If people think it's interesting, then I'll know it's worth the investment of the whole £600. Well, you don't want to do like pay £600. You give it to people, and they're like, "Well, this is boring. I don't like that." And you're like, "Wow, I just spent £600. Want to throw that away?"
It's just an investment. Like everybody I've talked to says, like you're not going to see your money back right away, and you
won't see your money back on 3 or 4 books. The first book is a financial loss. Second book is probably a financial loss. Third book, if you're good, and it's very hard to be 1-2 books in good. If you're good by your third one, you possibly could make your money back on that book. The third book, it takes 3 to 4 books for people to start getting a good following. Usually, and I'm saying, you shouldn't really tar it all because there's so many books being put out now. All comes down to advertisement and editors and beta readers. They really matter.
I always thought I would try to go, traditional publishing and just say, hey, or maybe like a small publishing company or firm. I don't know if they're a company or a firm or what they call them, but
publishing agencies, I believe they're called.
Yeah. and just be like, hey, take a shot. Only publish it on Kindle or whatever, 99 cents. Just give it a shot. See what people think. Um, but I've read a few self-published books and like them, and I'm not sure how much money they're making, but which is not really about money. It's more about just sharing stories with the world, and I feel like I have interesting things to say, and maybe it'd be fun to write them down and share them with people.
Well, that's what I'm going for. I really want to make, well, not make. I really want people to like hope they like the idea that I'm going in my head and like this whole story. The money side, like, it'd be amazing to make money, but I just want people to like this story that I've had in my head since I was like 16. Now, granted, the story's changed, but like the whole principle of what's going on, if I can get people to be like, wow, that's really interesting. Like, they want to. So when you're doing another book, that would be quite. I want to know what happens to these people. I'm like, well, he's dead, so you have to. New character. I'm going to be brutal. Yeah, people aren't going to survive my book. Like, don't be wanting a nice fairy tale ending. Like,
You still got me in there dying bloody, right?
Yeah, no, you're it. So I like the last 5 chapters, I've bullet pointed what happened in the last 5 chapters. You I think, no, you make it the last chapter. You are, you're in the last chapter, and you're going out in a blaze of glory. There's going to be a leg over there and a bit more over there, mate. You're
perfect.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be painful. Like, you're going to feel it.
Yeah.
This is like, which, what we're supposed to talk about is completely out of the window. But this is where I'm kind of a bit like a panther or a gardener, wherever it is, and then a bit like an architect, like structure my story. A bullet point, so like a few chapters, like, I know I need this in this chapter. I know I need these things. I'll sort of like this. Maybe this this happens, and then I just sort of like explore how it happens. Like I did the last 5 chapters. I've run over my head so much. I'm so excited to write in them. I just need to obviously get to them chapters. This is going to be interesting. You, Tim, Cade. Who else is there? I know who else is. Tim's son's there. Titan's there. That's an alien called, it's a Lincoln. I know she's there. There's is it Ing? Xing? Is that Ing? I can't remember.
Yeah, or Zin.
Zin, could be Zin. That's a little temper. It's a little alien. That's there. So this is something with my story. I've got. It's kind of like it's a so Unity's got multi-species. I think as of now, the stories that are the aliens that are actually made up in this story on Unity side, I think there's 6 of them, different species, and they're all on one side. And then the enemy side, they've got 7 aliens that you come across, but some are common and some aren't. So it's not like a flood of aliens, There's like there's a couple of this. You've seen them on the Discord I send you. It's like, there's some you see a lot and they're very common, and some you don't. And then there's one that's, pops up and it's kind of like, destroys everyone's lives. Yeah.
The fuzzy killing one.
The fuzzy one. So that's got yellow blood. So like, it's what's funny. Yeah. So the artist, I'm gonna give the artist a shout out. I'm gonna say his name's Gideus. It's not Gideus. It's Gideus. Something like that. I can't pronounce it. But Gideus, I told him about his alien. He done the fluffy fuzzy one. This thing it's fluffy, it's lovely. It's got big claws. It's horrible creature. It's a bit like it's feral, but it's not. But it's just the way it acts. It's like feral. It's about 1 meter tall. It looks like it's a fluffy furball with 4 arms, claws like that, and big mouth that opens. And it's just purple, and it's got. When I was talking to him about it, I said like, yeah, it's got yellow blood. He's like, what do you mean it's got yellow blood? Yellow blood's impossible. And he's giving me his lecture because he knows sort of sciencey stuff, or to a bit of degree. I'm like, but I want to have yellow blood. It doesn't make sense. It's got piss blood. I'm like, no, it's not piss blood. It's just got yellow blood, all right? And then he's like, it shouldn't happen. It's not possible. So, okay. And in the story, I've actually written that, like, I put down, yeah, the ones with yellow blood. And then one of the cats go, but it's weird. They shouldn't have yellow blood. So I even put it in the story. It's really weird. They shouldn't have yellow blood. I don't know. I've made this one character up called Crank. It's a little temper, and it's the mechanic, and it's fixing Henham's fighters. Henham's fighter got blasted to pieces in one of the first or second battles, and Have you ever seen that meme of Samuel Jackson doing that face where it's like, like when he's like he looks old in from I can't know what movie it is, but he's pulling like a like a dad looks at your child sort of look like, are you really going to do that? But I've got this alien called Crank, the little temper guy, kind of pull them sort of faces at him. It's like, what have you done to my ship? You've ruined it. There's holes in the holes, and he's having a massive go at like Franklin, and Franklin's like, I'm sorry, like, and he's like, look, there's here another hole in the hole. How did you put a hole in the hole? It's not possible to have holes in the holes. Franklin's like, in his head, he's like, oh, fuck's sake, like crazy, man. Like, I'm so sorry, Craig. Well, and it's, I think it's hilarious because I'm fairly sarcastic and kind of, I can be quite witty. So I'm trying to put a lot of this in. And like where I read a lot of military sci-fi, quite a lot of the times, people who write it, they make the military or any service people very professional, upright, straight backs. They don't really joke and laugh. Where the real humans will laugh and joke, and a lot of military people who talk about that, they say like they laugh and joke. They do talk. So I'm kind of really trying to put that in there. Like there's joking, there's bad, like there's serious stuff happens and they're down, but they try and like change their minds by talking about something else, and it's kind of making it apparent they're doing it, and like funny few witty things be said, and like mechanics getting annoyed and having a go. There's a link. There's a link with everything. Yeah, and there's a Lincoln species. So Lincoln's kind of like looks like a werewolf, but it's huge with bit longer arms. I was going for like a mix between an ape and a werewolf kind of look, but it kind of looks more werewolfy. But I like them anyway. So this thing's huge, and it's like, I don't know, 2.8 meters or something. Like the huge, great beastie creatures they are. And there's a little temper. This is a different temper, which is about 1.2 meters high. Like it's just having a go at this Lincoln. It's like looking up there, like he's having a go at the Ford. Like, look, this broke, and because this broke, that spilled oil everywhere. That oil went on that, caused that to snap. Do you know how close he was to dying? He's looking up, telling this Lincoln. This Lincoln's like, what, you mean that there? And he goes, don't poke it. The other mechanic said, don't poke it. I'm sorry, I'm just having a look, I'm really trying to add funniness to, because in real life, when bad stuff happens, there are people who get really down. Some people get really depressed. Some people can keep on going, and some people joke. Some people try and laugh and change subjects. And I'm trying to add the flavour of characters like that. I've got there's a bracken species. Now, one of them, Tumak, he's called. He's a bit fiery, and he kind of curses a bit, and he swears a bit more than others, and he kind of jumps the gun. He's a bit emotional, and when another character dies, he's a bit down and he's really upset. And then Ford, who's the one saying he was poking the thing, he's like bashes Tomak. He's like, trying to make jokes with him, and then Tomak's getting a bit angry and calling him names and stuff. And then Ford don't care because Ford's quite stuff goes over his head. He always tries to be positive, and I'm really trying. You know what I mean? I feel like my characters are quite diverse. Like they're not. It's in my head though. So like I think they're diverse. It still comes down to read. But I'm trying. I'm really trying. Hopefully people like it. Hopefully it's not too complicated. I'm really trying to make it not be complicated. We'll see.
Was there anything else you wanted to?
No, I've rambled. I'm cool. What about you?
I'm good for now.
Yeah.
Makes me actually want to get off here and start writing.
Do it.
There's things I want to knock out.
Right. Okay. Well, we're gonna leave it with that. I will be back on next Sunday, whether I'm with myself or with anyone else. I don't mind. I am trying to get other authors to come on and actually talk. I did have Raina come on. Raina come on. I'm going to keep trying to do that, get other authors to come on. You're straight, man. The Marine he's got the, what's that again?
Is he the one that's got he's talking about the guy that is sort of normal?
He's a bit witty, but he's kind of because I think he's a corporal. And I think I had that he wasn't the one in charge of the squad. I think there was one above him or another. Was it a sergeant? I'm terrible. I'm trying to remember my rankings. I think there was a sergeant to the squadron or squad. I mean, but he didn't get onto the pod, so like he's had to take over. So he's trying to be. He jokes around with the other ones, but he's a bit more observant. He notices a lot, and a lot of the other guys chat around, and he's trying to keep them level to be professional because he can tell they're nervous. And he does sort of point out that some are being a bit more nervous than others. So that's kind of how I'm having him. He's not being straight professional, like you know what I mean. He's just trying to keep the squad together and do stuff. But he does crack a few jokes and that. I kind of find my main characters aren't too witty. That they have their moments, but other characters I end up making really witty and humoury because I don't know. I don't know how that's just how it's going. But I don't know.
Yeah. I get it. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well,
right.
This was fun.
I enjoyed it.
Lost Fleet book 4, the 24th. That'll be what?
Is that what we're doing? Is it?
Yeah.
24th. Oh, 14 days away. That's when we're starting it, or is that when we're going to do that's when we're doing the live?
That's when we'll do the live for it. Because I think pretty much all of us have finished it, unless there's some. Carl may be behind on it. He may not have started it yet, but I know me, Rowdy Bob, and you have finished it. I think.
Admiral went over and done it again, didn't she?
I think. Yeah. That was a reread for
Admiral. But. CMDR Avon. I don't know. He's in my Discord. I don't think he's started it. He did say he's got to finish up some other books and then he's going to start on it. He's got his grandchildren over or something, so he's a bit busy.
I figured by the 24th we'd all have it done.
Yeah, we'll do another live chat about that.
I flew through it. I think it's the best one so far.
I feel. Do you know what I find? When you have a really good book that ties a lot of stuff together, it can be really good. But if it was on its own, it wouldn't be. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But because it's got all those other ones to lean on, it really does make it a good book.
And the weakness of book 3.
That really made this so good.
So much better than book 3.
Book 3 was terrible.
Nothing
happened.
The fights were good, but the interpersonal stuff was not as good.
Yeah, and I'm kind of glad. Spoilers. They've kind of tied up some of them other characters who are annoying. I'm kind of glad that happened, and now that the fresh issue, that's sort of what happened on the ships and stuff with the people you don't know who are the baddies. I like that because it's kind of like we don't know who they are. You know, the other lot he should have just shot ages ago. You know what I mean? I feel like their story dragged a bit.
In book 4, the bad characters are better than what we had in the first 3. Like, even though Fearless Falco was pretty good, I think this anonymous bad guy is much, much better.
Yeah, I think it is who I said it is. That cat. I'm sure it's him.
I don't think so, but
you don't.
Right. Well, you ready? Let's pop off.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for watching. Appreciate it. I'm getting 10 times so excited. I just want to start the next book. I got to wait. Right.